Hello and welcome to another TNN event. We are so happy to have you here. Come on in. We'll give everybody a minute to get set up. And let's see, let me also figure out how to do all the things, all the Zoom things. So feel free to turn your camera on. Of course, we love to see your faces. Gives us, a little bit of feedback. Hope you guys enjoy this one. I'm so excited to have Candice back here, as always. We're going to give people just a couple more minutes to find that Zoom link, join the event, finish my afternoon coffee, all of those things. When you are logged in, feel free to hop in the chat, tell us where you're joining from. And for those of you who are watching the replay later, we appreciate you being here. So I am just going to get this party started. All right, I'm going to share my screen. As always, I have just a few things. I think I know most of you by now, but if not, I'm Annie. I am your TNN host for the evening, or whatever time, whether it's evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. So welcome again to another Nomadic Network event. A little bit about the Nomadic Network. As hopefully you all know, this is a community of travelers inspiring each other to see the world. It was founded by Nomadic Matt and is now owned and run by Lisa Field, who was our Portland chapter director when Matt was running the show. We have now hosted more than 250 virtual events, and we just wrapped up our tours for this year. I know it's not even on the slide, but I'm excited about this. I think we hosted 60 travelers on our TNN tours this year. Website is thenomadicnetwork.com. You can see upcoming tour dates. We are working on getting our 2026, at least the first part of the year, events up. So you can always check there for the latest and greatest. Our epic community tours, we've got, let's see, Thailand, Vietnam, and India coming up in the spring, Mexico City too. So that's exciting. We go to some pretty incredible places. And ways to connect. Instagram is where we do the majority of our social media activity. There is the YouTube channel. We post all of the replays for these events on the YouTube channel so that you can go there, rewatch these, dig through the archives, find whatever information it is that you are looking for. Make sure you register for virtual events. And then, of course, we'd love for you to travel with us on any of the community tours. And reminders for the event. Of course, we love when you have your video on. We love to see your faces, but please do stay muted while Candice is giving her presentation, and you can use the chat to connect, chat, ask questions. And if you have a question, if you would be so kind as to just put question before it, I will collect those, and then we will go through these at the end. All of our speakers do this out of the kindness of their hearts. They volunteer their time, their energy to share their information and resources with you. So please engage with them online. I will drop all of Candice's links in just a little bit. I'll put those in the chat, but we would love for you to reach out to her, connect, follow along with all of her incredible adventures. And now it's time to learn, have some fun, and enjoy this time together. One moment, please, as I figure out how to switch between all of the different screens that I have open. So let's see. So I am going to now spotlight Candice. And before I turn it over, I would just love, Candice is one of my favorite humans on the entire planet. And so I'm always happy to be here with her. And that I get to host this time. So Candice is a travel and lifestyle content creator, educator, and seasoned tour guide with more than 15 years of experiences leading groups across North America and beyond. She inspires mindful, intentional travel through van life, slow travel, and sustainability, blending practical tips with immersive storytelling to help others connect deeply with places and people they visit. And she's an epic photographer. She didn't put that in the bio, but I'm just going to say that. So I'm going to hand it over to her. I'm going to drop her links in the chat. Candice, it is yours, my friend.
Hello, everyone. Let's go ahead and share this. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome to our Wander with Intention, our mindful travel to Southeast Asia presentation. To start, we're wanting to frame this in a way it's a little different than how most people have traveled through Southeast Asia in the past. You might have heard like visiting somewhere on a shoestring or the banana pancake trail. We're going to go a little bit beyond that. So this is going to be like a modern traveler's guide to slowing down so you can connect more deeply with a space while exploring Southeast Asia, right? So today we'll go over why Southeast Asia. We're going to discuss a bit about the cultural richness and the importance to be open to exploration while you're there. We're also going to dive into the immersion while you're there. So it's going beyond the banana pancake trail, which we all know and love. And then some resources and tips at the end. A little bit about me. Annie already gave such a wonderful intro. I'm a photographer, van lifer, tour guide of 15 years, wilderness guide. I've been a very dedicated, slow traveler for over 15 years. I've been nomadic since I was 8 years old, and I'm 35 now, so quite some time. I've gone through some big evolution within my travel journey, and we're going to discuss a little bit of that because Southeast Asia has been a pivotal part in my progress or my evolution as a traveler. I started going to Thailand in 2015 with a group of friends. And it was my first time in Southeast Asia. It was my first time backpacking in this kind of a way. We did kind of the highlight reel through Thailand. We did some off the beaten path things, kayaking in Chiang Mai. I had an uncle there who showed me around. And so I had a little bit of an off the beaten path experience, but not a ton. And then from there, I actually broke away from the group and traveled solo through Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. And then years later, I went back for a couples trip where I went through Thailand and Malaysia as well as Myanmar. So I've been all around Southeast Asia in various capacities, with friends, for myself, as a couple. And each time it's been very different. And it started out as like the banana trail, just going to see the highlights with my group of friends, to me eventually picking very, very, very intentionally where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do instead of just following the neon light signs pointing me to X, Y, or Z, right? That's more of this evolution. Whenever I was in Malaysia last, you see these stairs that are all brightly colored? None of that was actually colorful. It was just a regular concrete set of stairs. On the last trip I went, I got to see the Blue Castle, which is that blue photo in the middle on the bottom there. That is in Georgetown, Penang, where they have experienced various different periods of colonization. So the French came in, the Portuguese, and now they're coming back into their own identity again as the Malay people. So we're going to discuss a lot about with slow travel and the nuance that you'll experience and the nuance that you'll gain as a slow traveler. I also started doing a little bit more adventure things like scuba diving with whale sharks, taking cooking classes, and all of that has changed over the years as I've become a more seasoned slow traveler. And the idea with slow travel is that there's no such thing as like the perfect slow traveler or this perfect intentional traveler or mindful traveler or whatever. It's all about progress and effort. So if your intention is to slow down and to be more purposeful in your interactions, then progress is progress. And the effort and the intention behind what you're doing shines through more than perfection ever will, right? So why go to Southeast Asia? Why is it important? And why should it be on your list at all? Southeast Asia is like a rather large space. It includes Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, as well as the Philippines, which is the land of thousands of islands. So it has a lot of variety, not just ecologically and within the people, but because it has so much variety, it also has vibrancy that changes through the regions. It's a very rich culture with that's gone through a lot of evolution over the last couple thousand years, especially. Um, there's even some spaces that still have castles that are from the 13th century and some monuments that are from BC, like before Christ and all that. So it's important to recognize like these spaces have depth. They're rich in culture, they're rich in architecture. There's a ton to see. And so approaching it with that like curiosity and embracing the vibrancy and the variety. And if you're coming from somewhere like the US or a classically Western nation, then like it's going to be very different. And so how we approach Southeast Asia and how we approach travel in these ways, it's really important to like be mindful, right, while you're developing. Um, within the with that same vein of Western traveler going to a classified Eastern place, the focus in Southeast Asia is a lot different than what we see in the West. In the West, we're kind of an achievement-based society, whereas in Asia, they're more interpersonal relationship-based. So you'll see the importance of community and connection, especially within their seating, within restaurants. You'll notice that people gather together. There's a little bit more openness. There's a bit more sharing of food. There's more meeting new people because everybody just sits together in a mass in various ways. And so you're not sitting like your own nuclear family, you're sitting with lots of people, and that creates a really strong bond within community. You also see the markets where everybody's engaging together. So community and connection is really important. They're also very connected to their ecological systems. Water is very important throughout Southeast Asia because it's a huge method of transportation. There's water markets. A lot of farmers have to take riverways to get to the markets. And then there's some places like in Bangkok where all of the flower stalls are actually on the water. So if you want to go get flowers, you go to the flower market, but it's a floating flower market. So water is also very important. Spirituality is different too, and it shapes the foundation of Southeast Asia. Buddhism, Hinduism, all of these things are really rooted in being mindful and having introspective moments. You'll see that in Southeast Asia, it's everything is rooted in mindfulness and being self-aware, while also recognizing that we're all connected and that we're all a part of this bigger ecosystem. They're also very resilient people as well, or resilient region, I should say. It's important that as we travel through these spaces to recognize the nuance. For example, like we talked about Malaysia, they've been colonized by the French and the Portuguese. So you see a little bit of that influence while still embracing their Malaysian roots and creating their own traditions and cultures. We also see in Cambodia where there was a massive genocide that throughout the 80s and 90s, and they're still recovering from it. It wasn't until 2012 that the US, for example, stopped backing that um, group of people who were creating the genocide, right? And so it's important to recognize the nuance behind these spaces. Um, Even to this day, they're still recovering mines that were found all over Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia that were all dropped by or placed by US soldiers. So the region has a little bit more resiliency and could have some like preconceived notions of US travelers. So we also want to be aware of ourselves and our history within those spaces as we're traveling through. The classic banana pancake trail. So this is the tried and true, super accessible backpacking route. It feels, when you're on it, it almost feels like the Wizard of Oz. You're just going down the yellow brick road. There are signs that are bright neon lights saying Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Pai, and it tells you like everybody is doing that general route and has been for over 50 years. And so it's very well traveled. It's got really robust tourism infrastructure, and so it makes it for a very easy route. It could be whatever you like it to be, though. So, like anything in life, you create your experience. If you want to party, there is a party for you. If you go down to Khao San Road, you're going to party your face off and it's going to be fine. But if you want it to be more of an introspective journey, then like just off Khao San Road, just a couple streets, you'll find a very welcoming monastery that anybody can come into and have an introspective moment. So you can create the journey that you want while still going along the banana pancake trail. You can go a little beyond it as well. The trick with that is just asking the right questions and talking to the right people to open up opportunity. But the region is so diverse and it's so vibrant that you can really create whatever it is that you'd like. And going the classic route is a great way to start. It's a good way to set up a framework and then build out from there. The banana pancake trail has been evolving over the decades. So originally in the early days, it was handwritten, photocopied travel guides that people passed around. Lonely Planet, the book, actually started because of their trips through Southeast Asia. From there, it turned into internet cafes, and now we have blogs abound with tons of people to be able to access information about a place and space. There's even ChatGPT nowadays. I highly don't recommend it. It is usually false, but people do use it for their travels. But it's always evolving, and we're starting to see a big shift within Southeast Asia too about having more intentional travels because over tourism's a problem, and people are tired of waiting in long lines to take a photo at one particular spot. So we're starting to see a little bit more intentionality and mindfulness coming through Southeast Asia and the people that are traveling there. The goal is no longer to quote unquote do Southeast Asia. Now it's about experiencing a space deeply with cultural understanding and respect, as well as compassion and kindness. In the early days, the whole route was really fueled by night buses and hostels, and of course, banana pancakes, which is like where the trail got its name. Today, we're starting to see more eco lodges, long-term stays for digital nomads. We're starting to see people really seeking out meaningful moments that are tied to the space and connecting deeper with the local people there. Um, of course, there's nuance behind it. In some ways, we're seeing larger corporations like Marriott and Hyatt and stuff like that popping up with hotels, which makes it more important for us to invest in locally owned infrastructure as we're traveling. And we're seeing that picking up a lot. So it's a very exciting time for travel in Southeast Asia. So I've said slow travel quite a bit, but there's a lot of different ways that you can describe slow travel. Some people call it sustainable travel, mindful travel, low impact travel. The whole idea behind it is to move with intention or move more mindfully. And I think that the root of that starts with how you approach travel. The way that we should be approaching travel, in my opinion, is to move forward with a full heart and an open mind, right? So that's going to mean that you're always going to be moving forward with a full heart full of love, kindness, generosity, and then an open mind, you're moving with curiosity, introspections, being self-aware so that you can not just take in all of this environment, the kindness of strangers, the experiences, but you're also able to give back in a way that feels reciprocal as you're traveling. We don't want to show up to a place and take, 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 take. We want to also give back, and giving back can look like a variety of different things. It can be a simple thank you. It could be learning little bits of the language. Kap kun ka is how you say thank you. In Thai, so, or sabari, and then there's like lots of different ways to give back to the local people, spending your money locally, going to locally owned restaurants, staying at locally owned hostels and guest houses are a great way to give back as well in a financial way. Slowing down also means that we're not going to see it all, and we have to just accept that. Choose what you actually want to see. Don't get caught up in the highlight reels and the must-dos that you've seen from this blog says these are the 10 things to do in Bangkok, or this is the 10 best things to do in Hanoi. We don't need to do all of those things. Really check in with yourself here and figure out, well, what is it that you want to do? What do you want to gain from this experience? What are the things that you enjoy doing? Would you rather go to a water show in Vietnam and experience learning about the legends and lore through their historical theater styles? Or would you rather go see the bustling culture of Khao San Road and like a raging party? Whatever it is, like make sure that you're doing it for yourself with that with intention and kindness in mind. Which brings us into traveling with presence. So we're wanting to respect the local people and places. Means leave no trace, monitoring your environmental impact. When you talk to people and you show respect and kindness to the local people, you're gonna be met with some really beautiful moments. They'll probably fill you in on some cool new things you hadn't heard about. They might tell you some insider tips about how to do something. But slowing down and having these conversations and meeting people and having those really beautiful moments will open up your travels to really cool experiences that you can't always plan for, right? So slowing down also means like not over scheduling. Creating a skeleton plan is the way to do. Instead of trying to squeeze in a million activities, slow down, focus on what matters to you and how you can create connection as you move. Because every culture has its own rhythm. It's also important to honor that. Um, so whenever you get to, depending on where you're coming from, if you're coming from a very bustling city like New York, um, going into Bangkok will feel busy and everything, but it won't be that big of a different rhythm. If you're coming from Nunavut and then you go to Bangkok, that's gonna be a big shift. Like that is a shock to the system to be so remote into a busy city. So take a moment to honor the yourself as well as the rhythm of the city. Ask before taking photos, especially of monks and other people who it's just kind to ask first instead of no one likes a camera shoved in their face without a little bit of conversation before. Another big no-no for photos, no taking photos of kids. That's a big no-no. Where we don't know if their parents would like their photo to be taken. We don't want to overstep our boundaries. And then, of course, when you're choosing wildlife encounters, just be intentional that the encounters are healing and not harming, and that the some of the sanctuaries or quote unquote sanctuaries aren't always what they seem to be. So be aware of your choices when and if you opt for that. The benefits of slow travel. Honestly, I could go on for like 700 years about the benefits of slow travel, but I'm trying to synthesize it. There's a lot I could talk about, and I'm trying to not be talking to you for the next 7 hours. So, first of all, of course, experiences. Whenever you go to a space and you're traveling slowly and you're able to have these really brilliant conversations with people and you're immersing yourself in the local culture, you're going to open yourself up for conversations with locals that lead to unique experiences. Um, for example, I was traveling through Malaysia and ended up making friends with a hostel owner who's like, "Oh, you have to be here next week." I changed my whole plans after having this conversation. He was like, "No, no, it's your birthday next week. It's our Lunar New Year celebration. It's going to be amazing." I changed everything. I ended up staying in Georgetown for like almost 3 weeks and just like enjoying the Lunar New Year celebration. And for a little bit of background, Georgetown, Penang has the largest concentration of Chinese people outside of China. And so their Lunar New Year celebrations are very interesting and like robust. They blend Malaysian culture with Chinese culture, and they blend a little bit of that French Portuguese influence as well. And they have massive like stadium events as well as small home events. And so I ended up getting like invited into people's homes to experience dragon dancing and to learn about the rituals that happen every single day, because every day of Lunar New Year, it's unique and it's specific to the day. The first day is for family, the second day is, and so I got to experience all of these things by immersing myself into the culture, not having a packed schedule, so I could adjust things. And I took the time to like learn about the local language, local cuisine, ask questions so that they were excited to share their culture with me because I had already proven and shown that I'm clearly very interested in their culture and was like wanting to learn as much as possible. You also have a better sense of well-being traveling slowly. You're going to be less stressed, less exhausted. There's going to be more time to connect with yourself, with people, with spaces. You're also more likely to choose activities that are going to positively impact your physical and mental health, like walks, hikes, meditations. Um, this also means it's going to be better for your budget as well, which could also be like mental well-being, because you're gonna spend less time and money on transit. You're not gonna spend a quarter or a third of your time on a train, on like a 48-hour train to get from one end to this end to this end and knock out all these countries. Instead, you'll have more time, you'll have more money, you'll have more sleep, that which leads to better connections, right? So you just never know with these travels what's gonna come, right? And you could meet like your new best friend. Like I met who's now my travel sister in a hostel in Hanoi, Vietnam. I met her like she had come in late. I was still awake. Turns out we grew up 4 hours away from each other, and now we've traveled all over to Guatemala, to Alaska, all of these places together. So you never know. Like you might find your new best friend. I also met a ton of friends at like a motorcycle shop. I'm still friends with a lot of people that like born and raised in Vietnam that when I go back, I make sure to visit them. So you just never know like what's to come. You could create really beautiful, lasting connections. Also, when you're learning about a space and you're learning the history, politics, ecology, the social dynamics, it's going to lead to further research because you're going to be curious, of course. And that research could lead to like other activities that are tied specifically to those interests, right? So if you're interested in like I'm interested in yoga and meditation. And so when I went through Cambodia, I was researching about how I could get involved in a yoga community of some sort as I was traveling, and ended up staying for like a little over a week in a little local ashram where I meditated with monks and played soccer a lot with the local kids. But it's all part of it, right? And it like I wouldn't have found that had I not been looking into yoga and a little bit more about the history and the roots of the area. With all of this, right, the experiences, the focus on well-being, the connections you make, you're gonna grow. It's just part of travel. If you're not growing in travel, I wonder how you're traveling because it's like inevitable that there's gonna be moments that test your comfort zone. And you should be evolving from these experiences. It should be shifting things. It should be bringing up some changes, some inner work that's happening as you're going through. And whenever you're staying in one place for more extended periods of time. And when I say slow travel, you don't have to be in one city for 2 or 3 weeks. You could just be there for like 4 days. That's also considered slow travel to a lot of people. And it's not necessarily about the pace at which you travel, it's about your intentions and your actions while traveling. You could travel through a place and only be there for 2 days, but you might learn a lot more about it by um, using the fundamentals of slow travel in your time there. So it's not always about the pace or the length of time, it's about the quality of time. Um, a few more things on growth, just to make sure I've got everything. Um, when you're there for a longer period of time, you're just going to get to notice a little bit more of the nuance and details, right? You're going to see little things that the person just breezing through might not notice. It's also going to give you options to give back a little bit more intentionally and more mindfully because you're not going to be just going to the highlight reels places that have been listed or the top restaurants or whatever. You'll be able to learn from the locals and be like, "Oh, where do you eat? Where do you like to go for this kind of a meal?" And so you'll grow a lot and give back a lot more to the community. And bonus for slow travel is it's a reduced environmental impact as well, because you're often choosing more sustainable travel options for transportation and choosing less transportation. So you're going to be on buses, trains, possibly less carbon intensive flights. And so you can lower or reduce your environmental impact as well. Um, You'll also be able to support local businesses, like I said before, contributing a little bit more to the sustainability of that location. So, what are some action steps, right? We've talked about slow travel and whatnot. Let's lean in to these action steps for a deeper, slower, more intentional travel experience. Like we said before, leave room in your itinerary. You don't want to super packed. Stay longer if you can. Check in with yourself. What do you want to see? And then try to avoid some tourist traps and over tourism. We've all seen or felt the effects of over tourism. Even in the States, we see that a fair bit, um, or in Canada as well. If you go to like British Columbia and you go to Stewart Island, or Stanley Park, you'll see just hordes of people, right? Where it makes it difficult to move through the spaces because there's so many people. Or you'll start to see that based on when you go to Southeast Asia, you'll see this a little bit more, where you'll see a little bit more North American food in Thailand. And it's because they're catering a little too much to the tourists and not to the local peoples. So we want to prevent that by being intentional about how we're engaging and what we're investing our money in. If you've been to Niagara Falls, for example, you'll notice that it's primarily chains and it's big flashy lights and whatnot. Um, that's because that's how we invested in tourism there for a long time. And so being aware of our impact as we travel to prevent over tourism. If you know that it's crazy busy on these days, maybe not going on those days and try to go on a different day that's a little slower, or going early in the morning, just trying to avoid peak times is really helpful. The key with that one that we never want the people who live there to feel like second class citizens. That is the most important thing with this intentional travel situation is that we're giving back as much as like we're also getting too, because we get a lot through our travel. So we want to give back in some kind of a way and choosing to go to less traveled or um, changing our schedule around to avoid inundating or overwhelming the people is really helpful. So that leads us right into be flexible. Talk to the local people, ask them for their input. Um, if you're kind and show that you care, they will tell you. They will be very honest. And so, um, be aware of that and like ask. It's okay to ask. I think it's often better to ask and maybe look foolish, and know so that you don't, you know, be damaging or like be condescending or some kind do something kind some kind of a way. I think it's always better just to like have a foolish moment. If it means a more compassionate outcome, right? Which comes back to trying different modes of transportation, investing in the local people. So that's going to be restaurants, accommodations, etc. And we'll talk a little bit about how to find local accommodations as well. And then minimize your environmental impact. So we're going to try to avoid those quick bites from 7-Eleven that are wrapped in 7 layers of plastic and whatever. We're gonna bring, if we stay a little bit longer, sometimes we can get pure, like big jugs of purified water instead of having to have individual plastic jugs. We can also go to places that have purified water. We can also bring a LifeStraw water bottle or a purifying water bottle. That's usually what I travel with is a LifeStraw water bottle. And I've been through India, Myanmar, Thailand, all of these places with it, and I never had a stomach bug or anything. So it's worth the investment. Plus, it minimizes your plastic use. A lot of countries don't necessarily have the infrastructure to process plastic, and especially not at the rates that we are using it. So be aware of your impact and then just immerse yourself. I think that's like the biggest thing with all of this and with travel, especially in Southeast Asia, because it's so robust. There's so much to see, there's so much vibrancy, that like go slow and let yourself be immersed and taken in, by everything. Here we've got the beaches where you can relax and just chill. You'll see cows walking down the beach. It's super fun. Immerse yourself in it. Go to the local markets, meet the farmers, meet the people that are there. Ask them, what is that vegetable I've never seen before? Really, really, really approach travel with this beautiful sense of openness and curiosity. Um, Local customs are always interesting. You'll see this bigger photo here. I was just walking with a friend and ended up coming upon a giant pride event that was super fun. I got invited back to a big art festival the next day. It was amazing. So, like, really dive into the culture of the festivals, the traditions, visit the temples, ask questions. There have been a couple times when I've just been peeking around a temple door, like looking around, and I ended up getting invited to dinner where I learn a little bit about the customs and culture of that temple because everyone has their own thing, especially within Hindu temples. They usually have a little bit of a focus. And so I got to learn a ton about this particular Hindu temple and the people that go there. So dive in a little bit and like see, just ask questions, just like peek around and see what happens. Be open to the possibility and be curious. Another phenomenal way to meet people and to learn about a space is to take cooking classes. Cooking classes will teach you about farming techniques, about ecology, about the flowers and plants and everything that grow in a specific area, as well as how they've been integrated into the food. For example, in Thailand, the north is a very spicy region. They're going to have a lot spicier, hot foods. Whereas in the South, they don't have as much spice. Um, and it's not that it doesn't grow necessarily, but it's going to be more tropical and they just don't use spice in the same ways. Spice is used just enough to help with heat. In a lot of cultures, if it's really warm, a warm region, they actually wear more clothing sometimes to help do like a convection oven style way of preventing overheating. And they'll use spice just enough to get them sweating to help relieve themselves of the ambient temperature. Whereas in the north, where it gets a little bit colder, they use a lot of spice to heat themselves up from the inside, which is very opposite from places like India, where it's the southern spaces use a lot of spice, and the northern spaces don't use very much spice, or at least not heat spice like spicy peppers. Um, so it's an interesting Cooking classes are always a great way to dive into the culture and learn way more than you ever thought you could get out of a cooking class. Plus, you get to bring home spices sometimes. Like I bring home like 5 kilos of spices every time. It's outrageous. Um, and then a couple essentials just to know, so you can show up prepared in some kind of a way, because every region is going to be different, but it's very important to understand the nuance and keep yourself safe. So being aware of yourself is probably like one of the most basic things. Like anywhere, there's the possibility of scams, of pickpockets, of difficult situations. Be aware of your surroundings and of yourself. Learning basic phrases will help a ton. Um, know as you're getting there if there's certain dress codes and stuff. You want to make sure that if you're going into a region that dresses pretty modestly, that you are also dressing pretty modestly. Um, just to be respectful more than anything. If you're going into a temple, a lot of temples require you to cover your shoulders and wear long pants. That's really important. So just be aware of that. Maybe pack um, a scarf in your day bag so you can walk around and be able to cover your shoulders if you happen to see um, a temple that you'd like to visit. Also, with photography, we want to be conscious of how the camera interacts with the other people. It's always a little bit odd whenever you see somebody like taking your photo from across the way and you don't know them. So going up and like chatting with somebody, and being like, hey, this is like such a beautiful photo of you. Do you mind if I take it? And if there's a language barrier, sometimes you could just like make eye contact and be like, oh, and do that and like ask like, yes, and like kind of do that. Like honestly, you can do so much with just charades, you know? It's also important to know whether you're somebody that gets overstimulated. Um, Even if you're not somebody who generally gets overstimulated, travel is overstimulating. It's all new senses. It's visually stimulating. It's sensor, like sinus wise, like you're smelling a lot of new things. You're hearing a lot of new things, and you don't always know what's being said around you. It's a whole sensory experience that's like bum, 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 bum. And so it's important to recognize when you need a break. So be aware of yourself. Um, Sometimes if you're overstimulated or you haven't had food in a while, um, the overstimulation can lead to a little bit of an overreaction sometimes, which isn't always so great, you know? Um, and then health and safety. So health and safety too, in that same vein, is like be aware of your food intake. Recognize if you are getting hangry, if you have kind of a sensitive stomach, what does bother it, what doesn't. Uh, Staying hydrated while you're abroad is always or staying hydrated always is important, but especially when you're in like a different climate, be extra vigilant, especially with different healthcare and whatever. You just want to be aware of your food, water, and medicinal needs. um, if you do have medicine, make sure you know where it is. Make sure you have like any medical needs um, written down somewhere on your person. In Southeast Asia, it's pretty easy to get medication and get health services. Like, I go to Thailand for dental work periodically because I just think it's way better than it is in the United States. Um, and so, like, little things like that, it's just important to know as far as health and safety. There's also more access to certain medications. So, if you have um, like motion sickness, you can get much better motion sickness meds in Southeast Asia than you can in the States, and often in Canada as well, where you would need a prescription. And then we have the three A's, which kind of we've tied into it a little bit, but it's appearances, so how you're dressed, being respectful of the place that you're in and their customs and whatnot. As well as like you're still a representative of the country you're coming from in this space. And so it's important to be aware of yourself in these spaces and be as kind and courteous as you can. Then there's also appropriation versus appreciation. So This one's always like a very like fine line that varies by region and varies by people. Um, when I was in India, you see that I'm dressed in a sari, and I was very concerned about wearing this sari. It was like part of a all women's trip, and they were like, "No, we wear saris when we go to the Taj." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. Is that like appropriation? Is what is this? Is this okay?" Um, and then when we got there, like the people I was with, they were like, a lot of guides from India were like, no, 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 like we love it. It's so cool to see other people like embracing our culture in this beautiful way. It's not like you're wearing it and then being disrespectful in it. That would be something else completely. So they were like, yes, wear it. And when we got there, everybody stinking loved it. They were like, oh, this is amazing. Like Westerners in our saris. And so they loved it. Whereas versus appropriation, if I were to make yoga pants that had Ganesh's face all over it, their god, that would be appropriation in like a not kind way, right? So appropriation is usually the use of symbols and things that are respected and then using them inappropriately. Even things as simple as like dreadlocks, right? You'd think, oh, it's just hair, whatever. That's appropriation because it was used for a specific reason and it was used to help with a very specific culture for spiritual things and like the tying of dreads in a certain way was also a map in various cultures, especially through the Underground Railroad. So that's again another sign of appropriation in the US versus in India, right? So all of these three A's are very important, which all kind of comes down to appearances, but recognizing appropriation versus appearances, and it's going to be something that you'll have to decide in the moment if it leans one way or the other. Um, just use your best judgment. Remember, perfection is never the goal, it's progress and being like very mindful in how we move forward, right? Then we have our last one for connection, of course. So we're wanting to have responsible interactions. We want to be kind to everybody that we're encountering. Of course, if somebody is being aggressive in a way that like you tell them, oh no, no, please, please no, and they're still aggressive, then like yes, of course, like no, set your boundaries, keep yourself safe. But we want to be kind and courteous and as we move through these travels. And we want to support local people, right? So we're giving back just as much as we're getting. And a couple of resources for helping you dive deeper in all of this. So, accommodations. I always start with accommodations as like Hostel World and Booking.com are great starter resources, right? They're not the end all be all, they're not the only option. Booking.com has a sustainability filter that's relatively new, which is kind of fun. Um, with that, you have to be kind of aware of like greenwashing and if it's truly a locally owned spot. It's sometimes it's very buried, whether or not it's locally owned or if it's a sneaky Hyatt that looks like a sustainable, like nice little eco resort kind of a space. Or if it's backed by a very wealthy British man or whatever. And so it's a tricky one. And so you're not always gonna get it right, but looking through and using those as like a baseline for research, um, sometimes I like to book through those applications, especially if I'm unsure based on if I can book directly or not. Because after I find the place that I want to stay, I'll often try to find if I can book through them directly. It's usually cheaper and it's better for the business owner. Um, but if I feel like I'm nervous about putting my credit card information into this website that looks like it hasn't been updated since the 80s, I'm going to be a little bit more hesitant, you know? So be aware of how you create your accommodations. Like whenever I first started going to Southeast Asia, I would just show up and like walk down the street until I saw a hostel that I liked and was like, yeah, that'll do. Or I'd like walk in and I always travel during the shoulder season, so it was never really like a problem necessarily. And I could just keep walking till I found a place that I wanted to sleep for the night or for however many nights. Um, But sometimes it is nice to have like a little bit of a plan, in case you don't have a place to sleep for the night and you sleep on a beach or something. Not that anybody here has done that before, but and then Google Translate is a great option as well. I would download those in advance. I've used those all over the place, especially in Cuba, where you talk into it and you say what you want to say, and then they talk into it, and you're like, "Oh, that's what she said. Okay, okay," and you can then just do this back and forth thing. There's a new feature with the AirPods, and I know it's in the newest edition, and I guess there's an update to the previous like Gen 1 and Gen 2 AirPods as well, where you can actually put it in your ear. Somebody else can speak a different language and it translates in real time. It's incredible. My sister-in-law is Portuguese, and so like listening to her speak with this, I borrowed my brother-in-law's headphones and like listened to her speak. And it's like a pretty small gap before it starts translating, but like pretty incredible that it even is an option, right? So that's also an option out there. For maps, I always download maps in advance or download them with Wi-Fi at the hostel. Google Maps allows you to download by region, which is nice, especially um, for having driving directions and whatnot and being able to track as you're driving in a taxi. That's something I always do is I just make sure that we're going a somewhat reasonable route while in a taxi. And that's more of a solo female traveler situation. And I mean, also as a couple or like with friends too, just so you don't end up like getting this crazy bill because you went and circled the block 17 times before you went to your hostel. Um, and then Maps Stop Me is a great one, and that one is actually, I think, better for walking directions. It's also user input, and so when I was in Myanmar, I'd be looking in like Old Bagan, right, where the big giant temples are that are older than Siem Reap, and it'd be like, a person had like pinned this one location and it's like hole in the fence right here, or like can access this spot for sunset or sunrise or whatever, and so it's all user input. um so that's really handy for like insider scoops in some ways. It looks a little bit outdated, but it works incredibly well. You can also get little when you get to Southeast Asia, it's pretty easy to either like get a SIM card or an eSIM card, or even use like a Google phone, Google Fi situation. If you'd like, I usually get there and just get a quick SIM, and it's usually like 20 bucks for a month of unlimited data. So that's also an option if you don't want to like download and be offline necessarily. And then for money conversion, there's lots of apps like XE Exchange is a great one on Apple phones. I don't know if it is on Androids as well, but your calculator actually has conversion on it as well. So you just go to your, I'll just show you real quick, because we have time. Or maybe we don't actually. But here's your phone, and you click the bottom bit, and then you hit convert, and it'll honestly let you convert like money, it'll convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, it does all sorts of things. And then bookshop.org is a great resource for getting books about an area before you visit. Plus, you get to support your local neighborhood bookstore because you choose where the proceeds go to. So that's a fun option too for like learning more about the space. But the biggest thing when you're traveling and when you get there is just to let travel be a transformative experience. Embrace the flow of it all, embrace the local people, the culture, the history. Really, really dive into that goal of presence, right? The goal of travel is to be present, to be all encompassed in the culture, in the space. The goal is not perfection. Another option, of course, with embracing local travel is the nomadic network. You can find tons of people through this whole system and go to a location and be like, is anybody here from the nomadic network? And like people will pop up, or like going on their trips. Also, like they have the inside scoop, so reach out, use them as a resource. And of course, thank you all so much. I appreciate you being here. To access me, of course, there's the website, email, socials. Um, I share guides about sustainability, travel, slow living. I live in a van, so and like photography as well. So my everything I talk about is like slow travel, intentional living, this kind of alternative lifestyle kind of a way. If you have any questions, now's a great time.
We do have one. Bahi said this is her first time hearing about the banana pancake trail. I must say it's also mine. Can you tell us what banana pancake, like where did this come from? What's the
Okay,
meaning?
so banana pancakes are everywhere, all over Southeast Asia, and it kind of looks like an Abel skiver, but if you know what an Abel skiver is, it's a tiny pancake that's kind of a ball shaped, and they come in this big cast iron pan with little divots in it that like little half circles, and they'll mix. It's like a crepe-like rice flour dough mix with bananas, and sometimes they'll put like chives or some other little bits and spices, and then they just ladle out this giant batter into these little half moon or these half circle bits on the cast iron, and then they roast, turning this golden brown with like a little white color, and then they rotate them and it creates this little ball of pancake, and it's so good. And they serve them in these little like banana cartons, right? Or like originally it was just served on a banana leaf as well, and you'd eat off the banana leaf, this banana pancake. And sometimes they'll put sweetened condensed milk over it. Sometimes they'll put chocolate. There's all sorts of things. But the reason it got its name was because there were so many people having banana pancakes along the route. It was just like a common street food. And then it became like it was just everywhere. It was like you knew you were in a good touristy spot if you found banana pancakes. And the banana pancake trail as a whole is like the countries that I mentioned, right? So Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, which includes Bali as well. And then within that, you've got so in Thailand, Bangkok is usually where you start. It's the big city, and then you can go north. Generally, is what ends up happening is you go north to Chiang Mai, which is the like a bustling, ancient city of the north, and then you go to Pai, which is a mountain town, and then from there you go into Lao, like Luang Prabang, that whole area, and that's like it's basically within these countries, these are like the hotspot cities that you go. And that is the Banana Pancake Trail, is like this giant list of very popular cities to visit. Um, and it's been, it all kind of got, I mean, it got really, really popular with Lonely Planet's Shoestring of Southeast Asia guidebook. It was like their first big, big guidebook. And then people have been using that like aggressively so since I think the 80s or so. And so that whole region has just been like, that's the route that you go. And like sometimes you might go down this way and you'll go to these hotspots and and like as you're traveling, local people will be like, "Oh, you're here. Did you come from the north? Did you come from the south?" And you're like, "Oh, I came from so and so." And they'd be like, "Oh, your next stop is," and they would already be planning like, "Oh, you want to get on this bus, you want to do these things, blah, blah, blah," and they'd already be scheduling you out for this next adventure. And that's how like well traveled the Banana Pancake Trail is. And I mean, it's kind of a silly name that I don't know how many people like truly use anymore. Um, it's definitely very popular in the 50s and older crowd to use Banana Pancake Trail. Now I think that a lot of people just call it the tourist circuit. Um, but yeah, that's the long and short of it.
I love it. That's fantastic. And if you don't mind stopping to your uh, sharing your screen, we are out of time. And this was so, don't even kid yourself. You know, I'm going to be hitting you up when it's time. Hopefully, next January, I'm hoping that I will get myself to that part of the world. Uh, but until then, I've got just a couple of things before we wrap up. Um, I don't know how it happened, but it's December, you guys. Like, what even is life? We have one more event this year. That's it. One more. So our community happy hour is next Thursday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Lisa is going to be hosting that one. And that's it. That's a wrap for 2025. My mind is blown. And like I said, we are in the process of getting our first quarter events online. So check back for those. But please, it would be great to have you join us for our holiday happy hour celebration. Hope to see you there. 2026 community tours are up. I believe our first is Mexico City in February, and then we were just talking about Southeast Asia. We have a tour going to Thailand and Vietnam next year in the spring. So if you're interested, check those out. We also are going to the Holi Festival in India just before those two. So if you're looking for next year's adventure, we got you covered. And that's it for this round. Candice, thank you so much. It is always such a delight to have you here. You are such a wealth of information. And I love the way that you think about travel and that you share so much to help us, you know, get meaning from our travel and also be respectful of the cultures and the places that we visit. So thank you as always. So very much appreciated. And Laurel and Bahi, thank you both so much for being here. And those of you who are watching the replay, I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget, please connect with Candice. If you're watching the replay, the links are in the description, and we'll see you all next time. All right, friends, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Bye.